The topic of conversation is AI and the energy transition, scaling innovation for sustainable power in ASEAN. I'll hand you over to your moderator to take charge of the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Sunalini.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful day here and lots of energy. And I think we're talking about energy as we go along. So we live in a very dynamic world today. The last 5 years, at least that I have lived in, post-COVID, have been the most tumultuous time of my career. Two big trends that are shaping the world and the way we live in this world. One is AI. 5 years ago, there was machine learning, and it was just leapfrogged, I think, from there to generative AI to agentic AI systems and so on. In fact, one of the McKinsey estimates for potential for economics economic uplift that AI can add, even in Malaysia alone, is almost $110 billion. It's incredible, right? And so that's one thread. And the second thread is around energy transition, right? We're seeing so much of renewable power coming into the grid today. We're already at 25%. And with net zero goals, we want to go up to almost 70% in the next 30 years. I think there's a lot of changes in the ecosystem that we will see, right? And so we are standing at the cusp of these two trends, AI and energy transition. And it is therefore my pleasure to welcome our two speakers today. But let me actually hand over to our speakers, and they will introduce themselves. So, Chuan, please.
Hi. All right. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chuan. We are the clean energy provider in the country, which we are developer, which we build the power plant station, which powered by solar, like solar power plants, solar on the rooftop, and then we do design and build, which we are the developer. We are the asset owner. At the same time, we are the engineering construction company as well. And right now, actually, in the whole country, we have delivered close to about 3,000 buildings, including the residential and also the different sectors in commercial industrial building, as well as solar power plants. And also, just beginning of this year, basically, we just built the first battery energy storage on the power plant level in the country. At the same time, what we involve in smart energy on the AI in energy tech, which is we are the first one in the country to build this AI energy management software, which is since 2018. So basically, there is some of a quick summary about my company. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuan. Maybe Maria, if you would love to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. And I'm Maria Basso, the head of artificial intelligence and impact at the World Economic Forum. And my work focuses on how can we harness AI, not just for technological breakthroughs, but for real-world impact. So from scaling clean energy adoption to really making sure that the benefits reach every community. Very excited about today's conversation. ASEAN has for sure a unique opportunity to leapfrog in energy transition, if aligned on innovation, of course, governance and collaboration by design and from the start. Before we dive in, I just wanted to flag the organizer. I do have a hard stop in 20 minutes, so I can stay for the first part of the discussion, and we'll let you then conclude. Thank you and look forward to it.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you, Zhen, for being here. Okay, so I think, as we talk about AI, the energy industry has actually been at the back foot. AI has scaled so much across consumer-facing industries. You look at all our, biggest innovating companies, Shopee and Google, etc. Very, very forward, consumer companies. But from an energy perspective, we haven't seen major breakthroughs. At least that's not visible to the society yet. So I think what we'd love to understand, today is how is AI scaling innovation in the energy transition today? And how do you see this being different from today versus, let's say, 5 years ago, right? Maybe, Chuan, if you can start the conversation. And then Maria, you would love to have you add on to that, please.
All right. So 5 years back, it was 2020. or 2019, if you look into that, there was a moment which is before COVID. And there was an era, or I would say there are few things, if compared with today, definitely 5 years back, is very different. Yeah. So first, it will be back to infrastructures. When you look into infrastructures, it will be back to energy infrastructures and also the infrastructures for data and for AI. All right. So 5 years back, if you look into, I would say, for most of country in the world, the deployment of renewable energy is not really there. So the spike of renewable energy adoptions is mainly during or after COVID period, especially in 2022 onwards, when globally, when everyone started to push for ESG. And when there's an ESG as a governance, as a compliance, and when the world economy energy spike up due to the war, energy crisis happened in 2 years back, if you guys remember. And that's where the moment suddenly the whole world have a lot of huge demand on energy side. And when the world have this demand on energy side, it's always the first thing is no longer coal-fired power plant. It's mainly because of ESG compliance. There's a lot of financial institutions they focus on, for example, like impact investment, or they only able to invest in renewable energy or clean energy relevance project, all right? No longer like coal-fired power plant and so on. And that's where you see the demand on renewable energies happen there. So that's why when we talk about the AI, it's just similar and energy field. It's just similar as any other industry. If you don't have car, you won't have Uber, right? If you have no property, you will not have Airbnb. So in the energy sector, it's the same. If you won't have too much of this renewable energy as infrastructures like solar, wind, battery, these new technologies in power plants on the infrastructure level, the AI element, it will be very difficult to emerge into the energy sectors. So this is one of the key difference before and after. It's mainly because of the spike of renewable energy demand. That's why the infrastructures today is more ready for AI to come in, all right? And the other one definitely on the AI infrastructures, I would say 5 years back today, obviously there's a huge difference with a lot of data centers, with different this AI deployment and advantage, which I won't further elaborate it. I think since everyone here today, definitely you guys know about that. And the other one is mainly on the demand side. When you talk about the demand, it's similar as what I mentioned. 5 years back, when you have no this governance and you have no enforcement or ESG, each country, they don't really have a pledge to say, I want to achieve 100% carbon neutrality or net zero by 2050, 2060. When each country have no such a pledge, they have no such a commitment, when they have no carbon tax, the demand won't really there, because we started the first smart energy management system in 2018. And that was the first one in the country as well. And to be frank, it's very difficult for us to generate the demand because everyone, they don't really see the needs for them to go for digitalize on their energy usage. So that is because of the timing itself. That's why today, I would say, because of demand and the infrastructures, so the whole ecosystem right now, including like financing on the banking side, and also the government policy, actually is more ready to get more AI come into the clean energy industry. And last but not least is about the policy side. If, let's say, look into 5 years back, globally, in most of the country, solar deployment or any renewable energy deployment is purely just for building usage itself or for feeding into power plant purpose itself. But today, we are able to see more policy coming, for example, like in Malaysia or in South Asia, even though like globally, started to have the element, the policy which the energy market is more liberalized. You're able to go for like virtual power purchase agreement. When you have such a remote, distant, virtual energy on the demand side and the supply side, actually this policy able to enable more possibility for AI to key in, because the whole country, you need to go into a much smarter way. So I will further elaborate more later on in terms of the policy and also on the AI readiness part.
Thanks, Chuan. Maria, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. And just to add on what has just been shared, we see very interesting acceleration from the community over the past years thanks to the rise of generative AI. Probably main trends that we have seen in AI and energy transition has been one, really the shift from pilots, from AI used in pilots to actual production. So, for example, there were a lot of tests and small pilots forecasting a wind farm or specific predictive maintenance project, while today we're moving more to talk about production-grade systems that are fully embedded in grid operations and real-time control, for example. Another trend that we are seeing is from specific tools, so AI used for specific tools, to real system orchestration. So we are in a transition, really moving beyond isolated AI tools and more started to talk about digital twins and things like virtual power plants. The other very interesting trend of the last years it's about the acceleration of AI for research. And this includes also crucial areas for the energy transition. We see AI shortening discovery cycles for new battery chemistries, for example, or new material to be used for solar panels. So that's a very interesting trend that we see accelerated over the last years. Grid performance and reliability. So the use of AI to improve overall grid performance and enhance, for example, energy distribution. And then I would say last but not least, enabling smarter integration with renewable energy. AI can be a tool to forecast energy supply, energy demand, but manage also the variability of renewable sources like solar and wind. So overall, what we see over the past few years is that the ecosystem is more mature, capital is flowing more at scale, but of course there are still challenges that are needed to unlock for the full deployment.
Absolutely. I think the key message that both of you are saying is that the ecosystem has now started to develop, right? We are seeing movement from pilots to production and actual value being created versus initial experiments of AI in the energy sector. Very very thoughtful points there. I think let's move on then to, I think Maria, you touched this a little bit, but once and from your experience, what are the kinds of use cases where you are seeing AI really adding value, right? And when I say adding value, companies look at this from an ROI perspective, right? You can put in place very fancy tools, but at the end of the day, they're just toys, right? Unless you are putting them for good use, for decision making, for optimization, right? So have you seen that, Zhen, in your experience? Where is it that AI is really adding value in the energy sector?
Yeah, definitely. So this is what we also actively started to deploy this, because initially when we don't really see much value, AI is just a fancy word, right? It's just something that you have paid for extra, but you don't really see the return. So this is what most of the energy industry players face in the early years when AI adoption just go into like energy industry. But right now, I would say today it will definitely improve quite a lot. So few things here. So first of all, like when you are the renewable energy asset management company, which you own a lot of these renewable energy power plants like biomass, wind or solar, when you have these power plants that is running, they were able to help you to do the predictive for the maintenance part. Because the more that you're able to predict, let's say on the weather side, the more you're able to predict, let's say on the grid side, that when you can charge and discharge on your battery power plants, definitely that's where you can start to optimize it, because this prediction definitely is much better. I mean, for AI, definitely is much better than engineers, that you have massive data that you study and work on that. So that's the first thing, all right? And then the second part will be mainly on the building grid and also building energy management optimization itself. It can be go into the building itself and also the whole country itself. So for example, let's talk about on the building itself. Just imagine for your house, for your home, all right? Or let's say for your factories. In the past, when you have energy demand as your load, and then right now you have solar, and right now you have this your battery storage. And today, battery storage definitely is feasible, is commercial, viable. Let's say in Malaysia, actually we are one of the cheapest electricity country in ASEAN. Yeah, but today, when you deploy battery, let's say your factory, your payback period is about 5 years, all right? Let's say for home, it could be about 6 years. So it's much better than before, which is you need to wait for the payback period for more than 10 years. So that's on the infra side. But when you have AI there, when you are able to further optimize it, actually you are able to reduce your payback period. You're able to shorten your payback periods. So the AI part is mainly how to manage on the demand side and also supply side. So let's say in the morning, your solar, you will be able to charge a battery, all right? And then your solar, let's say you're not at home. So that's where you're able to charge it. And then how can they charge it during the this peak time? Because for each building of each factory, there are certain period which they will charge you in a much higher energy rate. So that will be the moment, how can you use the energy that you charge in the low peak period to discharge at the peak period? And then how do you shift the spike of the energy charges called maximum demand charges? Yeah, by using the AI for you to discharge the battery to lower down your discharges from the utility company side. So on this energy optimization tools is something very practical and something which we see you will be generally able to shorten the payback period easily from 1 year to 2 years. Depends on your energy building, health conditions. And definitely right now, they will have more buildings, it will go into have more smart meters. So how this concept works is just like your smartwatch, right? When you have a smartwatch, it will detect your body, this health rate, and also it will able to know your health conditions, your this sleep cycle, and so on. So we have more smart meters in your building. You'll be able to capture more data. So you will be able to know more about your building energy health conditions. Beside monitoring, beside prediction, the most important part is on energy control. Yeah, and this is a part that is not really happen right now in the world, but started to getting there, and also to further optimize. So controlling and also optimize with AI, I would say this is something very important, and this will be that. I mean, I would say that right now we still have a lot of room to further improve over here. So if you ask me about this use case, I would say the most popular area to further explore will be this area on the building itself, and definitely on the country itself, it will be the whole country's smart grid optimization. When the whole country, for example, like Malaysia, by 2050, 70% of energy has to come from renewable. I mean, definitely we have to make sure that energy security, energy stability is there. But 70% is all from, for example, like solar is about 50%. The whole country, the grid, it will be not stable at all. So how do we deploy more battery storage together with solar that are able to harmonize for the entire country usage? And when right now ASEAN is going to have ASEAN grid, which means from Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, we are all going to connect it, a little bit like Europe. And this will make the whole grid stability will be more complex. And with this policy and the cross-border collaboration there, the needs for smart energy has increased. Yeah, and definitely that is where we will see more use case will happen on a grid level.
I think you touched upon a very interesting point, and I just realized this is an analogy. Our phones used to charge, for a certain number of hours many years ago. These days, I just leave my phone on and it charges on the night, and it'll have an optimized charging schedule based on my behavior of what time I wake up, what time I plug it in. So what you're talking about, is residential solar systems that are basically working according to your schedule and on the irradiation pattern to optimize the charging and the usage of power for your best interest, right? And that's the kind of vision you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the way. And especially right now when most of us, I think started to have more people have EV at their home, right?
Yeah.
So definitely your EV you have to charge by solar and battery. So that will be another way, especially in the future, probably the EV, your battery in your EV, in your car, able to discharge and charge back power, supply the power to your building.
Yes.
So that will be the interesting part for us to optimize the whole energy usage.
Beautiful. That's an example of frictionless AI, as I would put it. Very nice. I know, Maria, you need to leave. So I think this is one question that we would love for you to start with, right? I think the role of AI in the last few years has also the focus has shifted it to being more equitable, right? How do you ensure more equity in the way the information and the benefits of AI are distributed, right? And so from an energy perspective, Maria, how can we think about AI that supports a very just and inclusive energy transition? I would love to also hear examples from outside of ASEAN, if you have any. I know our audience would love some real life examples, right? Here. So over to you, Maria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And thanks for the very, very important question. And we believe then that AI can accelerate just equitable energy transition, but only if we design around equity from actually day one. When it comes to data governance, finance, the community voice must be first and not an afterthought. So in terms of core principles from what we're also seeing and analyzing from different parties, it's two core principles to keep in mind. One, it's really start with people, not models. So people first, not the technology, meaning to be practical, design AI around access and social outcomes. But also make data governance, transparency, and social license, the scaffolding for really technical deployments. So in terms of different areas to think through, it's for sure on one side the regional data governance, so how to actually move from conversations around, for example, ASEAN level interoperability to actual interoperability, and as I heard from the panel before, how to truly build trust among parties, of course, paired with local control over sensitive datasets. So what are some shared frameworks that can reduce friction for cross-border solutions while also protecting communities? Then, of course, transparency and auditability are key to avoid hidden biases that can systematically disadvantage off-grid or low-income users. Local participation as well, local participation from the start, so mandating community consultations and participatory design for projects, or when it comes also to infrastructure builds, we know that they often have uneven local impacts, right? So how do you plan for early engagement that reduces conflicts but also improves outcomes? We look at safety and security as another pillar. So really, how can we treat AI in grids like critical infrastructure, enforcing cybersecurity? And also the important part of equity by design in procurement, but in finance as well. So for example, how to think about local hiring and of staff. And one very important thing that we saw from different countries that are thinking about, okay, we know the pillars, so these are important ones, but how do we move from talking about it to actually really implementing this ethical AI by design? I think some of the most interesting conversations we hear are around metrics and accountability. So how do we actually measure that we're moving in the right direction, from equity KPIs, for example, percentage of households gaining reliable access, change in energy affordability, job created locally, but also environmental KPIs and governance KPIs as well. So, for example, the number of audited models. And what could be very interesting is how can we create independent oversight? So sort of, in this case, ASEAN level observatory to review social impact and compliance. I think there is no perfect examples in the world. There are a lot of conversations going on, a lot of interesting practices that are emerging. And the question is, how do we move from actual impact and deployment of these practices by design and also scale?
A very, very important point. Thanks so much, Maria. I know we have to leave, so thank you very much for your participation today. And we hope we'll
Thank
catch you
you.
more over the next few years. Thanks, Maria.
Look forward. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Okay, so then moving forward, then, Yuan, also from your perspective, you're looking at this from a Malaysia lens, right? And an ASEAN lens. In your experience, are you seeing, AI being able to help energy transition create a more justifiable or just society, I would say? So let me repeat that question for the lack of. So, are you seeing AI helping the energy industry, the transition industry, renewables, etc., being able to create a more just and inclusive society? Are you seeing real life examples of that anywhere? Would love to hear what's actually happening on the ground.
All right. For this clean energy industry, there's always, I would say, it's always go for infra first, then slowly it will move into digital side. And how to get it more inclusive, definitely, is always like the bell curve of the early adopters. Usually it starts from infrastructures, and let's say like solar, and then it's always come from big corporate using it, or let's say some of the people who can have higher energy bill at their home, who have more cash rich, which they can own it. So that's always the start. So that part will always treat as their early market adopters, but it's always not inclusive for the rest of other people. But the whole industry, definitely we have to start from that area first. So what we did previously, I would say in the past 3 years, is we try to have a different business model to make clean energy more affordable for more people to use it. So like a rent-to-own model or like zero capex model is where we started to scale to more public, let's say from at the home area, or let's say on this factory area, which they don't need to have much financial burden. Yeah, and they are able to own and also enjoy the clean energy. And started with clean energy there. That's where we started to have like energy monitoring system there. Yeah. So this is a part that we started to make it a little bit more merged in between of a software on energy part and also on the hardware on energy part. And this is what we do commercially to make energy, clean energy more affordable. And clean energy right now for tech side, because of an economic concern, definitely when you give it off for free, it will just purely on the monitoring level. And that's where we started to have those data there. All right. And then let's say for the rural area, actually this is something that what we did. Let's say definitely this come with some of a government this tender which they have fund to the rural area that we built like off-grid solar, yeah, for the people in the village area which they can use. And a long time ago we did to have some of these workshop for people who stay in rural area to train them how to manage the solar system. Let's say for them, I mean to collaborate with some of the NGO. Yeah. So I think this is some part that how we make the clean energy more accessible, more inclusive to more people, yeah, in a commercial way and also in the more charity CSR way.
Got it. So affordability and education, right? Those are the two themes that you're talking about. Very nice. I think then let's move on to, there's so much hype around AI, and there's a lot of hope around AI. But what are the challenges? What's stopping us from really achieving the full potential? What are you seeing as challenges of deploying AI across the value chain for us?
The key challenges right now definitely come from a few aspects. First is infrastructures. In energy sectors, there's a lot of infrastructures pretty old. They are not ready to get AI to integrate with AI, all right? And if you look into like power plants, coal-fired power plant, definitely a lot of their devices is always on the analog devices. Not all is all the digital devices. I mean, especially for those old plants. And let's say on the infrastructure itself as well. Yeah. So this is always one of the key challenges when you need to emerge with AI. But how are you going to incur more capex to renew those old infra or old devices for you to get AI ready? Is always one of the key challenges right now. Secondly, will be mainly on right now in terms of infrastructure for renewable energy. Definitely, we have to make it more. We have to accelerate it, or else that's the only way for us to get smart energy able to be more popularized. When you have more clean energy plants or devices or system is has built out, because all this clean energy, our devices is all digital. It's all come with electronic devices. So it's definitely more AI ready compared with the old infrastructures. And the other part will be mainly on the these government's sectors, on the policy. How do they really have policy to encourage more people out there? Besides they go for clean energy usage, they would like to adopt a smart energy management system. Maybe they have some of a tax incentive to encourage more people to go for energy on the digitalization part. I think this is some of those gaps which we believe if, let's say, the government, they look into that, they will be able to bring more value. Because if you look into the whole country itself, when we talk about the whole energy transition, I think today our key topic is about energy transition. They will always go through 3 steps. I will name it as 3D. The first D is about decarbonizations. Second D is called decentralization. The third D is called digitalization. So the first D is about decarbonization. I think it's quite clear that you have to go green. When you go green, one of the beauty for renewable energy on clean energy is you no longer need to do it in a centralized manner, like how the traditional grid and the power plants is always centralized. Then that's where you distribute to each housing area, each industrial area. With clean energy, you're able to do in a decentralized area, for example, like your house, for your factories, for your shopping malls, right? So you can have your own energy generation on the roof, and then that's where you can access to clean energy. So when you have this step on the decentralized, the digitalizations is always happen at 2 parts. One is on the grid level part. This will back to the grid infrastructure part. It will be back to like Malaysia will be Tenaga National. But for every single one of us here, do not forget, when you have clean energy in your own premise for your from your house, for your factory itself, let's say for your own mall, if let's say you are those malls operator, you are empowered to adopt all these digital smart energy AI tools to make your building energy able to more optimize. And that's the real meaning of that, how this new age of clean and smart energy able to liberalize the energy industry. Besides the policy, I think the rest of it is, it's come to us. Yeah. So that's why the decentralization is something very important. And this will be the one of the key part on the policy side, enable the hardware, that's where the hardware enable on the AI side. And this is the way of how we can close the gap, which I mentioned just now.
That's a beautiful framework, right? 3D, we'll all remember that now. Thank you for that. I think we only have a few minutes left, so I would love to actually open up for the audience. If anyone has any questions in the audience. Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon. I just want to find out when will the ASEAN grid network will materialize to cater for the energy demand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This ASEAN grid, it just happened a few months back. Yeah, it just happened a few months back. For me, definitely I'm not from the country and countryside. I'm not there to give any deadline. But I think definitely 2 years, yeah, it's a big project, especially at this peninsula area from Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. When they have cross-border, especially right now Singapore, they have a huge demand to import clean energy, right? I mean, because of Singapore, based on the land limitation. That's why I would say this actually is an activator. Singapore actually, they play a very important role in the ASEAN grid because they are the one who demand for more clean energy, and that's everyone has to cross and sell the clean energy to them through Malaysia. And Malaysia is in quite a good strategic position in the geographic point of view. And that's where we allow people to pass through us, and that's where this country that we are able to generate more energy to Singapore as well, like cross-border. Yeah. So this cross-border is mainly on the G2G part. For me, easily it will take like 5 years on the policy side, on the infrastructure side, on the commercial side, especially when you cross the border. When you cross border, what will be the grid charges? I think that is something quite important. Yeah. So infrastructure, especially by Malaysia, on the technical, I mean, for our electricity is mainly on the Commonwealth standard, different from Thailand, even though we are similar as Singapore. But how this cross-border of this on the technical side able to sync, yeah, is I would say definitely it take years to identify out. But I strongly believe between Malaysia and Singapore, it will be very fast. As long as on the G2G level, they come into a common point, they have this common understanding, to accelerate this. The first cross-border energy export. So I hope I answer you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
Thank you so much for the panel. I think my question will be more on what can startups still solve in this space, right? For example, like big companies like Siemens, etc., has also rolled up their in-house or basically partners with like you guys on tech providers building like AIoT. What do you think like startups now? The biggest problem that startup can solve either on like the data side, on the vertical platform side, or even like any tools that they can go into like niche tasks that's still on the energy sector?
I think that's a quite good question because what you pointed out is correctly like those. There are some companies they do have their own AIoT devices. So what makes difference between the startup and them? So do not forget, for most of them, they are hardware provider, and software they do it in order to sell more hardware. And the gap right now in the industry is how do we communicate with all the different brands of those hardware like Siemens, ABB under the common platform. And this is the area for the startup, which is software focused, they're able to scale, able to cross the gap. So for me, this is one of the areas that you have to focus on that because you are not selling any hardware. Maybe you might just by the way you sell some of the devices, but that's where you play your position very different from those like ABB, Siemens, and so on. They can't change their business model, but you can. So this is the first part. And then the second part is you have to make it scalable because if you want to go for energy optimizations, there's thousands of buildings there with few hundred different industry. And even though similar industry, the operation model for the factory on their whole plant end-to-end, their SOP is totally different. The similar plastic factory who do molding, they can have a few different way of the energy consumption and also their production line is very different. If you need to go in customizations on to optimize the energy consumption part, it's not scalable. So try not to go into that level first. That will be later stage. But this stage, I would say that's mainly what we are doing now is mainly on the energy demands and also supply side, like solar battery, and also on the load. How do we like balance this? Because right now for most people, they have no much time to go into the small devices and tune their factory operation. So they just want to have something quick, easy, low-hanging fruit, which is solar that pump. I will switch my energy from utility to solar. Battery pump. It'll be there for me to shift to make my peak area of my energy charges to make it low. But which I use the energy from solar or during my off-peak time. So this model, you have to focus on something more scalable, which is more efficient, not going to the difference like operation part, but more on those key energy sources part, which I mentioned. And I think the key eventually back to your payback period, your ROI. As long as your devices able to shorten all the existing investment, return on investment, that will be the good solution. So I hope I may manage to give you some guidance. Thank you.
The next unicorn will be about scalability. That's what he's saying. Okay, so this has been an interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Zhen, and to our audience as well. I think what we are saying and what we are hearing from you is that energy has been a very legacy industry with its own set of problems, but an equally important one to solve, right, as we go forward. That energy transition, while it has taken its own course of seeing a massive wave in 2022, 2023, and now there's a little bit of a decline coming in from a geopolitics sentiment perspective. It's still here to stay. It is still a very important conversation to have. And I think AI will only help to unlock it further and further as you're speaking, right? So great hope for the future. Hopefully more startups that we can see in this space as well. And then we'll see how the world evolves now after this. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you once and again. Lovely meeting you all.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sunalini, for moderating the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Koh, and thank you, Ms. Basso, although you had to drop off at 4:30.